Hey everybody, it's Cass and Court TV. This is your girl, Miss Public Info, here with the latest and greatest and sometimes hated updates of the most high profile cases going on around the country. Now, just a few weeks ago, I came to you with an episode about Sean Diddy Combs, and we were talking about how his team filed for an acquittal with Judge Arun Subramanian of the Southern District of New York, the same judge that was a trial court judge in his 2 month long trial. Now, this filing came through essentially saying very much of the same details as was stated within that Rule 29 argument during the trial phase, that there wasn't enough evidence, that there essentially the government hadn't proven their case. They also talked a bit about the fact that some of the Mann Act charges, essentially the Mann Act charge, the one, and let me be clear, he wanted to be acquitted of what he'd been convicted for. Those are the counts that we're talking about. We're talking about the Mann Act counts. So the conviction. He wanted to be acquitted of that because, of course, he was not convicted of the other remaining counts, which included the RICO and the SEX trafficking. So we're only talking about the Mann Act. And as it relates to the Mann Act, his attorneys also said the fact remains that uh, he was not really the one that was, calling up the escorts. Also, the main argument was that the escorts were not actually escorts, that they were there for sexual activities. They were there for time spent. But of course, we know that in the trial court phase, it was proven that through testimony from some of the escorts that they were called for sexual activities, that he had a conversation. We learned through the trial phase, through text messages and messages that we heard, that he had a conversation with the escort agency stating that this person didn't perform. So therefore, he should have gotten his money back, or he shouldn't have been made pay for the service. There was proof there, but that's sort of what the argument looks like as it refers to uh, his team wanting his charges dropped, or wanting him to be acquitted of the Mann Act charges, which would essentially release him from jail, which of course his team has been fighting for a little bit since the beginning. They've been trying to get him out of jail, but certainly post conviction, they've been trying to get him out of jail for a few months now. Now, once that occurred, the judge heard what he had to say. Of course, the judge is going to take time and giving his ruling, but the prosecution, the United States, the DOJ, they have now the opportunity to rebut and respond. And here's what they had to say. You're going to see me look over to the side because my notes are on this side of the screen in which I'm looking at. So please excuse the non-direct eye contact from time to time. But his side, essentially, this is per MSNBC. This story comes from, but his side is saying that his request for acquittal or even a new trial should be quickly rejected. Prosecutors from the Department of Justice are saying in their court filing. Now, this is coming almost 3 weeks, as we said at the top of this episode, since he was since the petition came through. So in the filing, and it was made public just before midnight last night, they said that there was no legal grounds for the court to grant Combs's request to quash his convictions. Quash is a legal term. It basically means to vacate the convictions, and that he should be sentenced on October 3rd as scheduled. In that, they go on to say that, let's see if there's any more, because there's more. They go on to say that the Mann Act was not only a clear and relevant case, but there was overwhelming evidence to support the conviction, which is essentially what I said at the top of the episode as well, talking about or recalling some of the evidence that came through during the trial court phase of this case. And this centered around what we know now to be freak offs or hotel nights or Wild King nights, whichever you want to refer to it as. These were the drug fueled sex parties in luxury hotels that involved male sex workers. The DOJ says, and I quote, the defendant masterminded every aspect of the freak offs. Um, he transported escorts across state lines to engage in freak offs for pay. He directed the sexual activity of escorts and victims throughout freak offs for his own sexual gratification, and he personally engaged in sexual activity during freak offs, the filing said. Um, Now, Combs's attorneys have been contacted for comment, but of course, they're not making any comments because this is the law, guys. They're going to play everything smooth and by the book. Their response is probably going to come through a filing, but I don't think they're going to get a chance to respond. They may get some opportunity to respond, but officially during the filing, this is the DOJ's opportunity to respond to their actual filing for this acquittal. And then after this, as a means of procedure, then the Judge Arun Subramanian, will make his ruling. And again, it will likely be via paper through filings, and not an actual formal hearing. It'll probably be done through filings. That's what he's been doing. He's very good at just sort of issuing his ruling in writing. So this is going to do it for them. We'll come back. Now, I think that there is a little bit of news I saw from our guy at here it is. Okay, yeah, they're actually going to get an opportunity to respond. Okay, so Sean Combs's lawyer, this is from our guy, Matthew Russell Lee at the Inner City Press. Sean Combs's attorney has just been given until September 3rd, so that's literally a few weeks from now, to file a response to the U.S. Attorney's Office's opposition, which you just heard from me, to the acquittal or new trial. And listen, I think that they're likely going to respond and, rebut some of this stuff as it relates to the freak offs, the hotel nights, and all of that. They're probably going to, rehash the fact that, they really didn't have enough evidence to support the drug fueled freak offs or whatnot, simply because, at one point, I think, was Jane Doe was used as a drug mule, like she was the one supplying the drugs. They were sort of being very sort of really specific about how they were outlining that, but essentially, she was given the drugs from Combs's people. But they've been sort of hanging on to this thread, like, well, it didn't come from Sean Combs. But as the government said in their opposition, and they've said throughout the trial court phase, he was in charge of the orchestration of every part of the freak offs and every part of these Wild King nights. And this includes the escorts, hiring the male escorts, making sure that they were there, supplying them, in some cases paying them himself. That happened. We learned that in the trial court phase. So there's plenty of evidence to support, and that is essentially what the government has said in their oppositional statement. And Sean Combs' side will get until September 3rd to file a response to the opposition. And again, they're going to attack these specific examples that they know that the government is using, the evidence. They're going to attack the evidence that the government is using or used rather, to prove their case. And essentially, why are they asking for a new trial? Why are they asking for an acquittal after being relieved that he was acquitted of the most serious charges and only convicted on this? Well, they're asking for an acquittal and a new trial because they know very well that the DOJ is trying to throw the book at Combs. Um, Jay Clayton, who is the head of this, he's the new head of this division of the Department of Justice, said in his response to their 62-page filing about the fact that, he should be acquitted, their initial filing. Jay Clayton said in his response that this is the bail denial. This is the bail request. And Jay Clayton said in his response to the bail request that Combs is looking at significant time, significantly more time than initially, um, asserted in the beginning by the DOJ, that they were looking at the sort of 50 to 65-month range, but it looks like it's going to be more significant, and which was part of the reason why the DOJ has now sort of labeled him a flight risk, because he's very well aware that they're going to try and throw the book at him. And so that's the reason why his Combs' side is also trying to do everything they can to actually acquit him or get him a new trial granted, because they know that prison time is imminent. The sentencing is on October 3rd, and it really is not looking like the DOJ nor the Department of Probation is going to be, recommending on the more lenient side of things. Now, the Department of Probation, they are going to be looking at the steps that Sean Combs has tried to make during this time to, rehabilitate himself. And it seems as though he has not made any steps to do that, essentially because of the fact that he has just been trying to get out of jail. And also within that, denying that he did anything wrong. At one point, even saying in the bail request filing, saying that he was provoked to be violent, that he wasn't violent after his team during the trial court phase, specifically during the closing arguments, Mr. Agnifilio said that he was perhaps guilty of domestic violence, but not guilty of sex trafficking, which won them the acquittal on the sex trafficking, but it also bought them the bullet as it relates to the judge saying, "You are violent. I'm not letting you out of jail. The Mann Act requires that or mandates that you are remanded. And the reason is because you have a high propensity for violence, as even admitted by your own legal team." So we will stay on the pulse of this, guys. We will stay updated, keep you updated on everything we should be hearing on September 3rd. More news coming out of these filings about the acquittal. It's been a little bit quiet for a few weeks, but now we're hearing more and it's starting to ratchet up back again. And we'll be right there with you with the latest and the greatest updates of the Sean Combs case. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for vibing with us. This is Castle Court TV and your girl, Miss Public Info, telling you to stay safe, stay out of trouble, and take it easy. All right, guys. See you.